let's create our next media query. Okay, here we are, and it starts out at media. Notice it's at the end. Only all, we're going to do all, so not just screens, we're going to do all, and max, oops, I can't type, max width. I'm doing 480, which is what a typical landscape width on a smartphone would be. The other reason I'm doing 480 is because most browsers, if you're just testing it in a browser window, won't go smaller than about that. And so this way we can see the changes right on our computers without actually moving to the actual smartphone device itself to make sure, or an emulator. Okay, so what do we need to do? We have a few things that we need to change. The first thing is, let's go over here, see all of this space on either side? That's because our wrapper was set at 80%, so this is still filling 80%. So we want to change that so that it fills up our whole space, because we're not working with a lot of real estate when you're talking left to right here. So we needed our ID style of wrapper, and again, just as a reminder, I'm going to go back up here. Let's see, there's our wrapper. It was at 80%, and we had margin left and right set to auto so that it would center it. But we're going to go to 100% and get rid of those margins. And so I'm going to scroll down and create our new style. Our width is going to be 100%, and margin in this case is just going to be 0. And I'm just going to save that one thing, and we're going to go and refresh out on our browser. So let's go back out to Chrome. I'm going to refresh and see how that fills that out. This is going to be so much better when we get into a smaller screen size. And some of the other things that I noticed is we are going to make this header just a little bit smaller yet. And we're going to center it on our page. So let's go in and adjust our H1. So we're going to do our H1. I'm going to open and close that. Just going to scroll up a little. Get out of there. All right, H1. We're going to change our font size down just a little bit. It was at 22. We're going to go down to 20, which is 1.25 M's. Make our note so we know we're at 20 divided by 16. And I said we're going to center it. So we're going to go text, align, and center. So we're going to save. I'm going to go back out to Chrome, and I'm going to refresh. There we are. But notice we have our H2. We're going to, that H1 that's in the aside. I don't want that centered, so we're going to have to fix that too. So why don't we just do that right now? This will be a complex style because it's in the aside. And it's another H1. Yep. And we're going to do text, align, and we want left. So we want it back to the way that was because we don't want that one centered, just the header at the very top. So I'm going to save that, go back to my browser, click refresh, and there it is back to where it belongs. Now let's fix this menu. That's the next big thing that's bothering me. I'm going to go and create, since we used the nav semantic style, I'm going to go in and create nav and say that I want my width to be 100%. I want that to fill up the whole space, left to right. That's all I'm going to do with that. And then I'm going to do, I got to do a few things. So we're going to do our nav UL. We want just our lists that deal with the navigation. And I'm going to add a margin to it. And this is just going to give me a margin that goes on the top and the bottom so that there's a little bit of white space. So we're going to do 6 pixels because remember this is top and bottom. And then left and right, I don't want anything. I'm going to click save, and we're going to do one more thing with our nav, which is the nav li, which is the individual items. scroll up a little here. Okay. Now, this is the other part. I want to change this to display block. I got to type it correctly. So I'm changing it to display block. If I scroll up, my nav li is inline block. That's the part that made it so it went all the way across left to right instead of being a list that went down. I want to change this so it's now just a block, meaning that it takes up the whole width and it runs up and down. I'm going to do width auto, meaning it's just going to auto-fill the area that it's in. And I'm going to give it a border bottom so that it can, that there's a little divider between each of them. And I'm just going to do a 1 pixel solid, and I'm going to do it in white so it matches. So this will just give me a border in the bottom, so it'll still be blue because that's what it originally specified. But as it all kind of, otherwise would want to kind of smoosh together, now it'll be a white underline that separates the two. I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back out to Chrome. I'm going to refresh my page. Oh, doesn't that look much better? And as I get smaller, okay, that's as small as my browser window goes. So there's that little top and bottom spacing that I put in by adding it to my NavUL. There's the white border. My image looks great. So I'm not going to touch that. My aside actually looks pretty good. I think our biggest problem right now is not even the aside, it's those 3 columns. So let's go take a look at our columns and make those so that they are also just linear. So let's go back here and adjust our columns. So we're going to do column left, column right. Oh, sorry, that should be center. Center. I like to keep things in order. And column right. And then open and close our style. Now we want this also to become the width, and it's going to be basically the same thing as our aside and our image. So actually I'm thinking we need to adjust our aside. Sorry about that, because if we do 100%, technically it's going too wide. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to make my width for my aside. It's 91.25%. And here's what the dimensions, where I got this, all right? So it is taking 100% minus 2 times 4.375%, which we'll get to that in a sec, because that's actually our padding that we're going to have. And so we're going to give some padding on this too. And let's see, padding is 14 pixels on the top. I wouldn't really need to change this, but then left and right is that 4.375%. And here's how we derived at this. Here's our comment. What I did is I took 14 pixels, which is the same as before, but instead of dividing it by 960, I divided it by 320, which is the standard width of a smartphone screen when it is in portrait. So not the 480, but 320. So that's where I derived at that number. So we're going to do that, and I'm just going to copy these things because I know we want them for our columns left and right, because they're all going to be the same and they're all going to have those same paddings. So I'm just going to take that and copy all of that as well. And then I don't want these all to smoosh together, because otherwise we'd have just a big yellow blob. I'm going to give a margin of 6 pixels that would be top and bottom, and 0 left to right. Obviously we don't need anything left to right anymore. And I'm going to just do save, and we're going to go take a look and see what our updated aside and columns look like. Let's go back here, Let's click refresh. Oh, that's just about lovely. But notice what happened here is our yellow boxes are big. We've got some really nice little space in between, but these yellow boxes are huge. So if we remember, let's go back and figure out why that is. So let's scroll up. Oh, here's our culprit right here. Is even though this is part of our other media query, remember this says a max width of 1024. Well, we're well under that, and it's saying to give it a minimum height of 200 pixels. That's why it's so big. So we need to go fix this. I'm going to add one more thing to this. We're going to update our min height, and I'm just going to do 72 pixels because if you remember, 72 pixels is per inch, and that would be a reasonable amount for what we have and the content that we have. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back over to our browser and click refresh. Oh, that's so much better. So now we have nice padding all the way around. They're all much smaller. Everything is looking lovely. And now watch what happens as we get bigger. Oh, there we've hit the 1024. We're back to 3, or we're larger than 480, so we're between 480 and 1024. So we're back to 3 columns. And we're just going to keep going out. I'm going to scroll up so we can see our menu. Keep going. There it comes. Now we're past the 1024. So this is the power of media queries. And hopefully now you understand at least a little bit about how we calculate them and how we get there, and that this will help you on your lab assignment for this week. Thank you.